Let's do it.
Hello and welcome to another drive-in double feature. I'm Ryan.
I'm Nathan.
And this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before I get into anything at all, we have a Patreon over at patreon.com/drive-in double feature podcast. Just a little fun area where Nathan and I play some fun games, rank some movies, fun conversation, playing some trivia, just something extra given to you patrons out there as a thank you for supporting us for only $5 a month. If you'd like to, you head on over there to support us. If not, don't worry. It doesn't affect any regular content. But today we are continuing Stallone month, and we're jumping ahead to 1989's Tango and Cash, directed by Andrei Konchalovsky. It's a buddy movie right now. It's 1989, so we are ahead 3 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, he he did make Over the Top, which we've talked about. You can listen to our episode of Over the Top right now if you want to hear our thoughts and opinions on that one. But pretty much he was given like an outrageous sum of money at the time to be in this movie. We're pretty much like, he didn't really have an interest in doing Over the Top or Cobra, I don't think, but it was kind of like one of those where he was given so much money that he couldn't turn it down. I think at the time it was like one of the highest paychecks anyone had ever gotten for a movie.
For Over the Top.
Can't believe that. And Rambo 3 was another one. So another big, he was also a writer for that one. That one, Rambo 3, not really looked as fondly upon as the other Rambo movies. In fact, so much so that we didn't get another Rambo movie for another 20 years.
Yeah, and it was just called Rambo.
Yeah, so much so they didn't even want you to remember the third one. And another movie called Lockup, which admittedly I'm not very familiar with, but like everything else I've just mentioned, Sylvester Stallone wrote almost all of those except Lockup. So he had his DNA all over all those other movies, very much like trying to shoehorn what he thinks is going to be a good movie, and to varying degrees of success, I would say. So either very successful or kind of disappointing.
Yeah. It seems like a wishy-washy career. But I think he has huge enough hits to where a flop isn't really going to destroy his career. We'll see as we go along, of course.
Well, it is crazy. Like at this point in his career, Rocky came out in 1976. It's 1989 now. So 13 years later, he's made 4 Rocky movies and 3 Rambo movies at this point.
Yeah. He's a sequel man. I mean, he knows what works, he knows what's going to make some money. Like these franchises are money makers. Rocky 4 go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say Rocky 4 was such a hit. Maybe not Rambo 3, but Rambo 2 was insane.
Yeah, and that's probably Sylvester Stallone's biggest strength. I mean, there's been other movies I think, he has, we did really enjoy Nighthawks, but I think he knows for the most part what his strengths and weaknesses are, and I think he kind of tries to play into them so much, and I think sometimes it's like to the detriment of some of the movies where it's just like, well, I have to kind of frame this movie to how it's going to suit me versus of what I think is going to be good.
Yes.
But Rocky and Rambo, it's like he had such an attachment to those characters. It's like he knew what made Rocky work, and he was just kind of like, just do the same thing again every time, and people are gonna love it.
Yeah,
it's pretty much like, despite the fact that at this point Rocky is a world champion in the presence of the movie, he's still fighting as an underdog.
Yeah, he still finds a way to be an underdog in every version of that movie. And we'll see how that goes in Rocky 5. But
yeah, we'll
Okay.
get there, but it's I think at this point in his career, he's either got one or two options. It's like, I'm doing this for the paycheck, or I have a goal that I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And
No, I was gonna say, and I don't know how that works itself into Tango and Cash, I guess.
well, I mean, he does play a little bit of a part into the production side of this movie.
Hmm.
So, Tango and Cash was so again, playing into the theme that we've had so far in this series is that this movie also had a lot of drama going on behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Which
Um,
we've actually talked about this director before. I did want to say that he made Runaway Train, which we both
ah,
really liked. So it is a
oh,
good director.
yes, it is a good director. I mean, we absolutely loved Runaway Train. I mean, very forgotten classic.
Hmm.
Um, and I think uh, I think what the problem is with this one is, so the director, I'm just going to call him Andrei because I don't want to
Hmm.
I don't want to say his last name each time. Sorry, but he was hired on to direct this movie, and then midway through production ended up getting fired because the studio did not like the cuts that he was turning in.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess in between directors, because they eventually did hire on another director, Albert
Hmm.
Magnoli, and
Yeah, yeah.
and he also directed what, Purple Rain, I think, like before this. So
Oh wow.
uh, so he definitely had a hit under his belt, but allegedly in between that, Sylvester Stallone also did a little bit of directing in this movie.
Yeah, I'm sure he did, and I'm sure on set he told Kurt Russell, "Hey, I know this director. If you want to control a movie, just hire this guy. He will let you take over his movie."
He'll
Um,
literally tell you what
yeah,
to. He'll tell him what to do. He'll do it.
yeah. But I guess I don't. I wish I got more info on this, but I read somewhere and they were phrased it like this. They said Sylvester Stallone got the director of photography, Barry Sonnenfeld, fired. And I want to know how or why he got the original director of photography fired. So once again, that's him kind of extending his control outside of just acting.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how. Which I wonder what Barry Sonnenfeld did, because I mean Barry Sonnenfeld, went on to have his own little
Yeah.
career. I mean, directed The Addams Family, Men in Black, which were also huge hits, and
Hmm.
so he did have a good career. So I wonder what the guy did to do that. But Sylvester Stallone, what I was reading, about him is that he was a little bit of a prima donna a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
times, and supposedly, I think on the making of this one, um, he kind of got put in his place a little bit because he was kind of barking orders, or like trying to say like how he wanted the movie to go, and then Andre kind of like hey, just shut up and act or whatever type of thing,
Yeah.
and it kind of put him in his place. So he had never been talked to in that way. So I think that's kind of like, it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll kind of shut up and do my thing.
Yeah.
Um,
For the better.
but the director of this movie, he he was fired due to the dispute of the ending, and allegedly, on in his book, Andre had said that the reason why he was fired is because him and Stallone wanted to make a more serious type of movie and make it a little more realistic, but the producer John Peter kept pushing for the film to be a lot more goofier and campier for this movie, and
And that's what he got.
that's and that's pretty much why he got fired. I mean, another reason why he was fired was his refusal to agree to what he referred to as a increasingly insane demands that Peters had said. Andre had said that he was initially hired to make a buddy cop movie with plenty of humor, but Peters basically wanted to turn it into a spoof without any semblance of seriousness whatsoever. So I mean, it's like very clearly like the producers of the movie wanted this to be a comedy, and
Hmm.
they wanted it to be kind of like a buddy cop movie. Because I mean, I so Kurt Russell's in this movie.
Yeah.
And allegedly at the time, he was replacing Patrick Swayze, who left due to creative differences and went on to do Roadhouse the same year, which was probably a smart move. Just be honest. And but Kurt Russell's character in this movie is almost like an exact copycat of Mel Gibson's character in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, it's kind of the same. Definitely, that's the vibe that I got off of him. Exactly. He's even got like kind of the hair down and everything.
He's got the hair down, like Riggs in the movie, Mel Gibson's character in Lethal Weapon is kind of like the loose cannon of the group. That he does a bunch of crazy stuff. He acts crazy, real smart ass type of character, and he dresses like super casually, like he's hanging out at a bar rather than he's a cop.
Yeah. And he's Cash in this movie, right? I'm not mixing them up. Yeah, he plays Cash in this movie. And yeah, that's all. That is basically his character down to like the most possible form. It's just loose cannon. But the way they did Sylvester Stallone in this movie is so weird because he's not a ripoff of really anything other, but he pretends. He almost reminds me of like a stockbroker, but he's a cop. They're both cops, but he's like really nicely dressed and like super like he almost is like a rich dude, but he's kind of similar to Kurt Russell, still like as a cop that does a really great job and still plays by his own rules.
Yeah, he's his own rogue cop too. That's kind of like I guess it's kind of like the gimmick, like because in Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson's the loose cannon, and Danny Glover's character is like the veteran cop that kind of plays by the rules a little bit, and he kind of starts feeling like then he starts getting along a lot better with Mel Gibson's character. And then in this movie, it's like, oh no, they're both rogue cops. We need both of them to be loose cannons, except this one dresses nice and this one doesn't dress so nice.
Exactly. That I guess that's part of the issue with Tango and Cash, maybe, is that buddy cop movies play a lot off of them being not similar at all. And this one, they are really close to each other. Like they're pretty similar personalities, honestly. Maybe Sylvester Stallone's just a little more uptight, I guess.
I kind of took it as more so they were so similar. It's like they hated each other type of thing.
I gotcha. Okay.
It's kind of like those people that say like, I wouldn't want to be my own best friend or something, like because they know how much they suck. So
okay, yeah, I gotcha. Now I feel that. Okay,
yeah,
it's all coming together now.
That's what I took it as. But this movie is definitely leans a lot into the comedy. So it that's kind of pretty much like the whole selling point of this movie is the banter between Tango and Cash, and how they have like their little one-liners off with each other. Like they'll go like, oh well, like like what about you? What about the that type. They keep going back and forth where they're just basically insulting each other back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. It's witty, it's funny. I actually once again, just like Cobra, I think this movie's fun. It's a good time. I wouldn't call it a great movie. Once again, it's a junk food movie again. Like we did 2 this week, in my opinion. I feel like this is just a different type of junk food movie. This is a buddy cop, a little more comedy based junk food type deal.
I actually liked it a little better than Cobra.
Yeah.
Because I did like the selling point of them being being opposites, or like them trying to work together. And I did enjoy a lot of their banter that they had back and forth. And there's a lot of really just out there scenes where like how the movie starts is Sylvester Stallone character Tango being out in the middle of a highway. So this stunt, they actually, I read that allegedly they did take from Police Story.
Really? They actually just straight took from it?
Or they're just recreating the stunt. So going back to our episode where we talked about Police Story, which you can go listen to right now, there is a stunt where Jackie Chan stands in front of a bus, and the bus stops so suddenly that the bad guys fly through the window and hit the pavement.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happens in this movie, except it's this big like oil rig truck.
It's a really funny scene, but you're right. I guess I wasn't thinking about it, but it is the exact same thing because Sylvester Stallone stands right in front of him, and I guess for whatever reason they don't want to hit him. I don't know, even though they're bad guys. It's Robert Zadar playing the bad guy here, who's very distinctive. So it's
Yeah,
huge jaw.
yeah. And I do like at the very beginning, like we can't find the cocaine anywhere. We can't find any drugs, and then Stallone just pulls out his gun and just shoots the truck, and everyone freaks out, and then it's just cocaine just starts spewing out of
Yeah,
the truck.
but here's my problem with this, okay? Or not my
I'm like, how
problem.
much cocaine is in there?
I just thought what was funny is he tests it, right? And you see that in movies where they like lick it. I swear this man does this with his palm open and just like the biggest lick you could possibly do of cocaine. He's like he gets a good amount of it.
It was the '80s. Everyone was doing it then.
Yeah, it's understandable. Which actually, I don't know when I'll be able to bring this up. This is considered the last movie of the 80s. It's the last studio release of 1989. So this is considered the end of the 80s, which is I don't know, kind of interesting.
Well, this movie came out during Christmas time.
Yes, it was a Christmas movie. This movie had like a weird turnaround, I guess. It was filmed August 1989. They wrapped up and they got it out in 3 months, which back then was not really the most common thing.
No, and I mean there is a lot of crazy stunts in this movie that it's crazy that they're able to film all that in the amount of time.
I know exactly. But we do have to bring up in this beginning scene how it transitions to us seeing the bad guy like almost instantly. Like for whatever reason, they shoot the truck and then the bad guys are just but they just drive by all these cops and they're like oh, that Tango and Cash. Oh, it's played by Jack Palance, by the way.
Oh,
And
he was so funny in that. I liked him as a villain. Where he
oh
just
yeah,
oh, that Tango and Cash, like
no, that man is hamming it up for this one. He is really trying. He does play a great villain. But he is also another classic. I'm just really evil type villain. I'm an evil guy. I control all the crime. Oh, and one of his, I guess, henchmen, or I guess they're from a rival crime is or crime syndicate is James Hong. So
yeah, there's James Hong, David Lopan from Big Trouble in Little
yep,
China.
yeah. So it's kind of like a reunion movie in a way.
It is, and
And you forgot Sylvester Stallone gets called Rambo in the beginning of the movie. He's like,
oh
he
yeah,
thinks he's Rambo. So
yeah, he thinks he's Rambo, and then the classic line that Stallone says, "Rambo is a pussy."
yeah, it's good. I like that.
It's a little too on the nose for my liking,
Really?
it's like okay, like all right, I get it. And
Yeah.
I mean, I would have been weird if he said, yeah, he thinks he's just like what was his name? I'm trying to remember. Hold on. Okay, he thinks he's Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah.
Like, what if he just said that? Like, he just said like
everyone in
like,
the audience would be like, "Whoa, hey, I know that one."
yeah, just like a completely like different.
He thinks he's Marion Cobretti.
Yeah, he thinks he's a Marion Cobretti over here.
Marion Cobretti is a pussy. But no, I mean, getting into the villain here, I mean, it's a little bit ahead of this, but I do love the scene where he has the two mice and he's explaining a very simple plan of just putting Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone in prison, but he has to explain it with these two mice he has on his desk and puts them like in a rat maze.
I so when he did that, I thought for sure he was just going to like kill those mice.
I thought so
like,
too.
I thought he was literally going to smash them together,
Yeah.
but he
Mhm.
just puts them back in his little mouse box.
Yeah, no, he loves these mice because I think they show up again and he's like, "Oh, I love you," like he's playing
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. So one thing I did read about the movie is that Jack Palance hated this movie, and
Really, he looks like he's having fun.
he supposedly uh, it's he said that he took the role on because he wanted to be like in a big Sylvester Stallone movie and be the bad guy.
Okay.
And then I read, and if you watch this movie, they never like were on set at the same time.
No, no.
Because I mean, even when Jack Palance's character, spoilers, gets killed, it's like they're not like Tango and Cash are not even in the same frame as him.
No. Wow, that's actually really sad. I
Well, I don't feel that bad for him. 2 years later, Jack Palance wins an Oscar.
That is true. What a legend. So after this performance, he went on to do an Oscar winning
He's like,
performance.
he said, I'll show you guys. And
Yeah, and I'll be in the Billy Crystal movie that will get Oscar nominated for whatever reason.
yeah, who the hell expected that to happen?
I don't know. Great movie, don't get
A
me wrong.
great movie,
Yeah.
yeah, but still. Um, anyway, going back to the movie, I do want to mention, Kurt Russell's opening scene too,
Oh
when
yeah.
he shows up, and he's got like the little dirty apartment, and then it turned out, he was followed there, and
Hmm.
then all of a sudden, like they don't explain it at all, and it's such a cutaway. He shoots somebody with his shoe.
Yeah, yeah. I don't I think they bring it up one other
They
time
they
later, but like
They do later because it turns out that Kurt Russell knows like this weird inventor guy, and then he even says something like, "Oh, you need another boot cannon," and
yeah,
I,
they needed to play into that more, like on 007 like Q deal where he had gadgets the whole time. If it because yeah, you're right, it's so bizarre.
that's one aspect that completely threw me off about this movie. It's like I get it; it's supposed to be like a parody, but I'm like, did we really need like get James Bond gadgets for this movie?
Yeah, because in off the top of my head, I can't think of any buddy cop movies that do that.
I mean, I guess that kind of leans into the theory of John Peters, where he wanted it to be kind of a parody, I suppose. But
Yeah.
that part, I was like, I understand it's supposed to be a comedy. I'm fine with it being a comedy, but this
Hmm.
one goes like a little bit outside of the realism for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whatever. I mean, it's just weird that they shoot somebody with his boot. They don't explain it forever,
Hmm.
and and he just he was just walking in his apartment. Thank God he had a bulletproof vest when he was walking in his apartment.
He's always protected, and I love that he doesn't take it off until he is going up the elevator into the police station, and he's walking around the police station with his shirt off. So he looks like a badass. What a scene too, because he pulls the gun out of his desk and he's like, "Who's been messing with my gun?" And he like literally points it at people, like he points it at the camera. It's like, what? Who did something to my gun?
Yeah, he's sniffing his gun and all that, but it's like he's a basset hound for his own gun. Like he could just
Yeah,
tell right away, and they do reveal why somebody was messing with his
yeah.
gun later. But because Tango is kind of working on like this big case that he's trying to blow up, and then turned out, like you said, they got set up and sent to prison.
Hmm.
But I do like the introduction because it turns out like Cash wants to get in on this too because it's kind of affecting him as well. And Tango's like, I've been working on this case for 3 months, like, and I've got to this point, and Cash is like, well, yeah, I just started about half an hour ago, and here I am.
Yeah, I did. I do think that's funny. The setup is, it works for the movie, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought like, wow, this is such a weak like setup because they find this dead guy and they have a gun that's just been planted there, and then the cops show up and they just assume that these two cops killed this guy, and they're like, yeah, but take him to court, like instantly they're like, yeah, no, we're not even going to do anything else. You're going to court. You killed this man.
Well, I assume that the agents were like paid off by Jack Palance's character. I thought
all of those people.
all of them.
Well, I guess what's weird about it is also their sentence. What is it? 13 months for killing a federal. 18 months.
Yeah, 13 or 18 months. Yeah,
for killing a federal agent. And they go to a minimum. I know they take a plea deal, but still, it's like
they said they said it's involuntary manslaughter, so it's okay.
Okay, that one's fine.
But I actually did. That's one of probably my favorite plot point of the whole movie is when they do go to prison.
Yes,
and I actually would have like. I think that's kind of like a neat premise where it's like two cops in a prison type of thing. And
well, you kind of get that with Escape Plan. Just saying.
With Escape Plan. Okay. I couldn't even remember what that.
Everybody forgot about that movie.
No, I've never seen it, so I had no clue. That's what it was about.
Yeah,
but I did like that part because it turns out like all the criminals they locked away in there.
Yes,
were there, and they're like everybody has like their own like, I'm gonna get you, Cash. I'm gonna get you, Tango. Like you put me in here forever, and they had this big back and forth where it's like they're trying to avoid being assaulted in the prison, and
this prison is absolutely insane. By the way, they walk in and like newspapers are on fire, places are on fire, like nobody's taking care of this prison. It is an absolute nightmare to walk through.
Yeah, the guards don't care at all. They're in their own little cells, and then we get a cameo from Clint Howard.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in this, but I was I'm always happy to see Clint Howard on this show. I'm sure he's just going to keep popping up.
It is funny to see him in this movie. I was just like, oh, okay, I guess he's in it. And he's playing like a crazy guy, and he's like, it's like he's playing with a slinky the whole time, and Tango Stallone's character even calls him Slinky.
And he's like, oh, I killed my best friend. I'm crazy. Don't you know that I'm crazy? You don't want to be with crazy people. But Stallone basically makes him I'm going to just say it makes Clint Howard his prison bitch. Pretty much.
He literally calls him his wife.
Yeah, he calls him his wife. Yeah, because he annoys him so bad. But then I guess Stallone puts him in his place and almost makes him like a servant dog.
Yeah, that was funny because he told him like go to bed, and then the guy's like, like just hurries off to bed.
Yeah.
So they eventually, Jack Palance's character shows up in the prison, and like it turns out like they are trying to gang up and kill Tango and Cash in prison. And there's this guy with this like one of the worst British accents I've ever, like rivaling some of like the biggest ones like I've heard. Or it's just like horrible British accent.
Yeah, I think it's played by Brian James, who is just so. The accent's so bad. But what's funny is you say that, but Sylvester Stallone liked him so much that they put more scenes of him in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much like the probably like the biggest henchman role, or like the third or second biggest villain in the movie.
He's pretty much the biggest villain as far as like actual villain on screen, like because with Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell, because like you said, Jack Palance is like he's doing his own thing somewhere else.
Yeah, it's very much that type of movie where there's just like multiple different bad guys and to deal with. They do eventually break out of prison, and I was like, like I said, I wish they would have stayed there a little longer with that time period, but they go out, and apparently, you meet Terry Hatcher. She's in this movie.
Oh yeah, playing Sylvester Stallone's sister.
Well, that's the thing. You don't know it's his sister until like partway through, and he goes and finds Kurt Russell goes to a strip club, and he finds Terry Hatcher, and it's just like this ridiculous scene. He goes backstage, and gratuitous scene where he goes to the backstage of a strip club. Yeah, it's all these topless women just hanging out like as they do.
Yeah, it's just an easy way to get some nudity in your movie, I guess. But from this point on, Kurt Russell's motivation is getting with Terry Hatcher. One of the wilder scenes is the is the one where he's getting a back massage from her.
Well, don't forget the the drag scene before that.
Oh, that's right. That happens. Yeah, because Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone, when they escape prison, which I do want to say I do love a lot of the sets and stuff from that. There's actually a really good one where Kurt Russell's between two fans and it's like water rushing down and the cops are trying to get in. Really great set pieces and good stunt work.
Yeah, well, because Tango is kind of like, hey, we should stay in prison. We'll figure this out. And Cash is like, nah, forget it. I'm out of here. And then it's like he's like, Tango, you came. He's like, Tango, you came. And he's like, yeah, I got bored. That's
exactly. And they escape together. They zip wire out of the prison, which of course they do. Of course. But yeah, they split off and Kurt Russell ends up having the dress and drag to get around cops. And the way they bring this up, the cops think they're like a lesbian couple, him and Terry Hatcher.
Like that part, it's just like they start going a little over the top with the comedy. Really long, like back massage scene.
Yes, and I don't know, maybe I just haven't gotten that amazing of back massages, but she's giving this back massage and they're saying like deeper, oh, I think it's in and stuff like that. I'm like, what kind of massage is this?
Well, he said he slipped the disc and she was talking about putting the disc back in. Like, that's not how that works.
I don't think that's how it works. But Sylvester Stallone walks in and of course the couch is blocking it, so it just looks like Terry Hatcher's just
going to town on Cash.
Yeah, exactly. He's about to kill him too. I think if his captain didn't show up in that scene, Cash might have been murdered at that point.
Probably so. But it was a little funny scene. That part I thought was pretty funny. And they go to the little inventor guy, and that's where they meet the inventor. That's the one that's giving Kurt Russell all these wacky gadgets. And
the dog.
Well, go ahead and describe the dog.
Oh yeah, there's like a dog that's like a fake dog, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna sell this to old people to protect their homes." And like the dog, its mouth opens up and like shoots off a bullet.
Oh, that's
right. And Kurt Russell, he like just gives a thumbs up. He's like, "Hey, good job."
Yeah, just assault rifles in our pets.
Yeah.
But yeah, they end up stealing like a armored type of tank, or like basically like. Looks like the A-Team van, kind of. So they drive that in, and what do you know? It turns into another big shoot 'em up type of movie.
Yeah, see, the movie might lose. It lost me a little here. It's good. It's good action scenes, explosions, but I guess I kind of tuned out at the end here. I don't think it was as good.
No, and they do have one callback because they do meet the fake British guy again earlier in the movie, and they stuff like a grenade down his pants, and he's like starts freaking out, and it turns out to be a dud. He's like, oh, thank God. And then later in the movie, they do put a live grenade in his pants, and so the guy's pants explode and he dies in like an explosion. And
it's absolutely horrible. These people shouldn't be cops.
No, just complete disregard for who these people are. I mean, very much just shoot people and then ask questions later type of thing. And I do agree. I really was not a fan of the final 20 minutes or so of this movie because it feels very rushed, and it just doesn't. Because the back massage scene you're talking about, that's like. There's only like 30 or 25 minutes left of the movie at that point.
No, exactly. This movie has like a good amount of plot. Like they go to prison, they escape, and then like you said, like I think I looked at the time around the back massage scene and I was like, oh wow, we're almost done with this movie. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the part it does feel a little weird. Like I said, I do think Jack Palance character, he does have some good scenes, but I still don't think he's very fleshed out so much. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't really feel like we really get a whole lot of time with him. So you kind of get like the mirror scene. I mean, they shoot him dead, and then the movie pretty much just ends like right there.
Yeah,
Like,
it does have a great final shot of of Sylvester. Well, so yeah, it's Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell high-fiving, but Kurt Russell is, of course, like, I think I earned the right to date your sister. And then Sylvester Stallone's like, yeah, like, go for it, buddy.
yeah, it was fine. So one line I do like that they said before the climax was um Sylvester Stallone is like trying to have like this sentimental moment with Cash where he's telling him like he finally respects him, being like, Cash, if I die, I think you're a good cop. And Kurt Russell's like, well, just so you know, if you do die, I am going to date your sister.
And then he says, over my dead body, which, yeah. Wow, funny.
Funny stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the movie just kind of like, they literally like kill the bad guy and high five each other at the end.
Yep, and it ends on, like, I think it zooms out and it's in a newspaper, their high five.
Yep, they've been redeemed.
Yep, everything's good now, even though you guys escaped prison. It's fine
And
because you're innocent.
and so many murdered people in prison. There's just a trail of dead bodies wherever you go.
Hey, that's okay. It's an action movie from the 80s, and you know what? It's a lot of fun.
I did have, I mean, we're pointing out the funny parts, but it does work really well. Very super easy watch. Once again, kind of in the same theme of Cobra, where it's not a very good movie, but it's a fun time. And not really, as long as I'm entertained for about an hour and a half, that's all I asked for.
Exactly.
And
just an easy good time. I appreciate that.
so I would definitely give this movie a recommend for my money.
Yep, same here. I recommend it. And hey, I just read that Stallone says he has the script written for the sequel. He said this in 2019. He's just trying to get Kurt Russell to agree. So who knows? That it's been a few years now, so it might not happen, but maybe one day Tango and Cash too.
And Kurt Russell said, "No, thanks. I got another Fast and Furious movie to do."
Yeah, a Fast and Furious, and then one of those Santa Netflix movies.
Yeah, he's so busy with that. And
yeah,
he's probably like, "I'm not going to do it because I don't want to shave my humongous beard."
Yeah, exactly.
He's waiting on He's waiting on Quentin Tarantino to call him again.
And Tarantino says, "Can you shave that beard?" And he'll say, "Yes, yes, I will."
He's keeping it on in case Tarantino calls him.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
He's like wanting to do another Western type of thing.
Well, he'll probably be in the Movie Critic or whatever the hell.
Yeah, he probably will be. Hasn't he been in pretty much like a lot of? I mean,
since his
Death
first
Proof?
one was Death Proof. I don't think he was in Inglorious Bastards. But he was in The Hateful Eight and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
yeah.
keep the
So
trend
there
up.
you go. But
Somehow back to Tarantino. Sorry.
It always ends with Tarantino. We have to mention him at least once.
Yep.
So, but that's going to do it for us. Nathan, what are we going to be talking about next week?
All right. Well, on Tuesday, we're going to be watching a Sylvester Stallone classic with Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot. That is not streaming anywhere, so you can rent that if you really need to. That's up to you, and watch it to join us for the next week's episode.
It's a legendary movie to be had.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us. We want to thank you once again for listening. If you want to send us an email over at drivein-podcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on x.com, twitter.com/drive-in-double-feature podcast, where you can X us And
Yep.
and once again, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/Driving Double Feature Podcast. But until next time.
Until next time.